All right, good afternoon. We're just about ready to start. Could you please do me a favor and let me know that you can see my screen and, of course, that you can hear me? Can you hear me? I hope you can hear me. That's weird. Someone just let me know that you can hear me, please. Thank you. Thank you so much, William. I appreciate it. Thank you. I thought maybe there was some kind of a technical issue, so thank you for that. Anyway, let us begin. Thank you everyone for coming to this NINZA presentation of Gravity Orbit X. Before we continue, first of all, let me introduce myself just in case. My name is James Buchman. I've been trading for uh, more years than I care to admit. I have my own Discord community. We have a trading room where every morning I outline my trading plan. This morning we were shorting the Nasdaq below 26,410, targeting 26,300. In S&P we were short below 7,067, targeting 45, and then expecting a bounce back up toward 58, 70 and higher. Okay, I do this every day. If you want to join me, please do. All right, let's talk about Gravity Orbit X, what it does, its features, and how can it help us in our trading. Well, first of all, we got to discuss different market conditions to really appreciate what it does. So there are a few different market conditions, right? There are bullish conditions and bearish conditions. There are also trending conditions with strong momentum. And then there are range bound, kind of a sideways, low volatility conditions, right? And some indicators that do really well when market is trending and very directional don't do so well when markets are range bound. And let's face it, probably around more than 60% of the time, markets tend to be range bound, not directional. What this indicator does, it identifies areas of low volatility. Even if at first it's a directional market, eventually a directional market begins to lose momentum and price starts to kind of range back and forth. So this indicator identifies what it calls a do not trade zones, where there is low volatility, range bound market. And then once price gets out of that range, that zone, it looks for a reversal situation. So at its core, gravity orbit X is a reversal indicator. So it's very important to understand when it would do really well. And it would do really well when markets oscillate back and forth. So what we're going to be doing today is looking at live charts, of course, from today, as we always do. In my webinars, I don't cherry pick, just whatever happened today. And we're going to see how this indicator identifies these zones and then looks for the reversal signals. Of course, depending on the time frame you use, It could be just a quick scalping tool, or if you use it on larger time frames, you can actually get pretty decent moves, as we will see shortly. So there are studies made by NINZA backtesting. This is the NASDAQ on a 100 tick. So it's important, obviously, great performance, but also got to look at the drawdown. Got to take a look at everything. So when price reverses, right? Because what is the idea? Price always reverts to the mean. No matter how strong and directional a market is, eventually it will revert back to the mean, the fair value. In this case, this indicator uses a dynamic VWAP. So it's not a regular VWAP, it's dynamic in the sense it adjusts very quickly to current price action, to current market conditions. Your traditional VWAP would start when Globex opens and then slowly kind of move with price. This one is a lot more responsive to current price action, and this is what I mean. So it always looks for reversal situation when price goes beyond a range, right? Beyond a range. So not to repeat myself, but it's just so important. I feel I have to. This is ideal for range bound markets, not markets that explode to the upside or explode to the downside. Because markets that explode, let's say, to the upside, you try to reverse them, and it's like standing in front of a freight train, right? You don't want to do that. Similarly, if a market declines very quickly, you don't want to be catching a falling knife, right? So this is range bound conditions. And by the way, when are those range bound conditions more often occur? Well, very often pre-market. Pre-market. Probably not in the first 30 minutes of trading. That's when a lot of action happens. We can have very strong directional moves. But then again, later on in the afternoon, right? Maybe like after 11 o'clock, 11:30, when markets again kind of slow down and start to oscillate. That's when you would look for this kind of an indicator to do well. This is the zone I was talking about. We're going to see them on live charts. In this zone, what the indicator is saying is do not trade here. Do not trade here. Wait for price to get beyond to a certain level to then come back to the mean, to the VWAP, right? So once price gets out, you want to, in case, short here, long here. By the way, this indicator does not repaint or anything like that. Once there is a signal, it stays there. But inside this zone, well, they call it the forbidden zone. So inside this zone, you don't want to trade. So I mentioned already, it continuously updates this VWAP, and the idea is, and we're going to see it on our charts. The idea is price will come back to the VWAP, the fair value. It's just how markets work. So we will see that. So again, you have the forbidden zone. This is where you don't trade. You wait for price to get beyond, to short, to come back to the VWAP, beyond, to short, to come back to the VWAP, or below, to go long, to come back to the VWAP. Again, pay attention. Look what price is doing. It oscillates back and forth. So you're looking for specific market conditions. Okay. Same exact idea. So these are the signals. Now let's talk about time frame for a minute. Obviously, the smaller the time frame, the more signals you're gonna get. But not only that, and I kind of it probably goes across most indicators. The smaller the time frame, yes, the more signals you're going to get, but the less reliable they are. Because what is a directional move on a smaller time frame might just be a minor move on a larger time frame. And again, we're going to take a look at that. And NINZA, of course, as always, they give the best settings, and you can just reach out to their support, and they will give you the best settings for every time frame. At this point, I do want to start taking a look at some charts. So if you give me just 1 second, I'm going to find where it is in Zoom and start kind of talking about it. Okay. Where are you? Ah, here you are. All right. So this is a 5 minute chart. 5 minute chart. This is from this morning. You see, this is live. So we can kind of show the clock, right? This is all live. So um, coming into the session, we have a forbidden zone. Here, the indicator identifies low volatility, range bound conditions. Don't trade here. Okay. What is it waiting for? It's waiting for price to get away from the fair value, to get away from the VWAP. And when it gets far enough, it would look for price to go back to the VWAP because price always reverts to the mean, always comes back. Always, always. Uh, but not necessarily immediately. Okay, maybe I'll circle back to that idea. But so again, this is it doesn't repaint. It's not after the fact. This happens in real time. Um, by the way, I ran this indicator in my demonstration room in my server this morning, but it wasn't a 5 minute. I think it was a 1 minute, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was a 1 minute. Um, because I was busy with my trading room, I didn't really look much at it, but I think 5 minute is better because it looks in a bigger picture, gives you better context. So in any case, price gets away from the VWAP, moves out of this forbidden zone, and there you go, boom, long signal. Where should it go first? Back to the fair value. Okay, back to the fair value. And then it gets out of the fair value. It gets out, it moves far away. It begins to get exhausted. What does price want to do? Well, it wants to get back to the fair value because price always goes back to the fair value. Always, always. Short signal, boom, right to the fair value right here. Actually, this happened not too long ago. In real time, here it is. This is the forbidden zone. There are no trades here. Price bounces right to the upper edge of the zone, back to the VWAP, and now it looks like maybe it wants the lower edge of the zone. So this is on a 5 minute. Now what's important, because I'm going to show you a smaller time frame next, and I'm going to just explain why this is important. 5 minutes, this whole move, and this was a decent size move, right? Decent size move. The 5 minute nailed it perfectly because it's fair for day trading. It's a fairly large time frame. Now let's see what happens on a smaller time frame. Okay, 1 second. Let me find it. All right, so this is a NinZaFamily 3010. NinZaFamily 3010. So if we kind of go back. So at first, it's range bound. Again, this is what you want. You want range bound. I'm going to show you in a minute what you don't want. But in range bound conditions, sure, it can nail a signal pretty good. Takes it all the way down. Here now you only have a scalp. Is it enough for a scalp? Probably is. Again, if you see price actually hits the VWAP here, this becomes your target. The VWAP becomes your target. Now, can you get more? Maybe you can, but the whole point here is that a reversal will take you back to fair value. Can price go beyond the fair value? Of course, yes, but it will take you at least there. Now, here's what you don't want. I think it's coming. Okay, you see that? Okay, so um, this is now a strongly trending market. This is also already after, if you remember, the 5 minute gave you a long. Okay, so you kind of start putting things together here. The larger time frame now gives you a long, which means on a smaller time frame, you really got to be careful with the shorts because now we have a directional move, right? A directional move. And that's not what you want on a smaller time frame as far as reversals. Now it doesn't matter because eventually price still comes to the fair value, like here. But the point is, you got to wait all this time for this to happen. So this actually just happened now. So now there is a long. Price is outside. Price is outside of the forbidden zone. And now we get a long, which, if things continue to be bullish, it should be able to arrive at some point at the fair value, which is the VWAP. Okay. Now, as far as earlier in the day, like earlier in the morning, oops, because I began to look at it early in the morning, and this is what I mean. Like when you pre-market, right? Pre-market, because I began to look at this pre-market, and yeah, pre-market you do expect rotations, right? It's not that you can't have a directional move in the pre-market, especially, of course, after like some 8:30 news. You can have some pretty strong moves. But barring that, if there is no news or if it's sufficient amount of time before news, price would just kind of go back and forth. And that's when you can use a smaller time frame to try and just get scalps. And again, these are all just quick scalps from the sell to the VWAP, from the buy to the VWAP. Here is another buy toward toward the VWAP, right? So that's the idea. See, from here, price eventually reaches the VWAP. So smaller time frames should be used during times when you expect there to be rotational kind of market, not a directional kind of market. This is not going to do well. No reversal indicator is going to do well, especially on a smaller time frame when things are trending strongly. I mean, this obviously makes sense. Okay, so that's as far as this goes. So let me now get back to done. And of course, at any point you can ask a question. Eventually, I will take a look um, at the questions. Where is here it is. Okay, so let's continue with the slide presentation. So again, the 5 minute, the 1 minute, 100 tick, they give you all these settings. Basically, these settings will define the VWAP, how dynamic you want it to be, how quickly you want it to respond. It has to do with this forbidden zone we were talking about. So these settings will determine all that. Because obviously, you know, settings for a 5 minute chart cannot possibly be the same settings, as for like 100 tick chart. It just wouldn't fly. So yes, you can combine it with Captain Optimus. I did not have charts today with Captain Optimus, but if you're going to be using small time frames, I said it before, it's just essential to use automation. Things happen too quickly. Things happen too quickly. So on a smaller time frames, you would need to use Captain Optimus to automate your trades. Yeah, I mean, in the room this morning, like I said, I have a indicator demonstration room, so I ran it this morning on what was it? It was the NINZA, and it was, I believe, either a 1 or a 5 minute chart. I don't recall now, but I did run it live. Obviously, on a 5 minute, we just saw only two signals, right? But two good ones. So it's not only how many signals you get. That was my point earlier. Larger time frames are going to give you fewer signals, but they will tend to be more on the money. So just different examples of waiting for price to get outside of the zone and move far enough away from fair value, from the VWAP, to take a long or a short back toward the VWAP. More examples here. That's a very extreme example, okay? Okay, and yeah, so this is the offer. So gravity by itself, 306. You can combine it with Captain Optimus and Infinity Algo Engines, which just allows you to make strategies out of this indicator, or I guess any indicator. Yeah, so that's this one is pretty short and sweet. It's a reversal indicator. Something like this should be part of your toolbox along with a trending indicator, right? So if you have a trending indicator, I'm like, my favorite is RK System Platinum. So let's say you have something like RK System Platinum, which does amazingly well in trending markets. I mean, it kicks it, really does. But it would not do well in range bound conditions. It just wouldn't. That's when this type of an indicator, probably on a smaller time frame when things are really slow, would do well. So it's a matter of knowing what tools to use under what conditions. Now, in reality, obviously, we can't always predict ahead of time what market conditions will be, right? I wish. Wouldn't that be great? But we can predict it with certain probability. Oh, my goodness, 1 minute. Sorry about that. Yeah, so they can predict market conditions with certain probability, right? Before news, like right before news, obviously we could expect an explosive move. That's not when you want to use a reversal indicator, right? But if you're like an hour and a half away from the session open, yeah, you can expect some range-bound conditions, chop back and forth after 11 o'clock, 11:30 until like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Again, you can expect some choppy range-bound conditions. That's when you would use it. And again, if we can take a look at the 5 minute here, let me find it. Mhm. The 5 minute chart, again, only two signals all day, only two signals. But man, right? I mean, these are these are impressive signals. So, don't only look now. If you want a lot of signals, sure, stick with a lower time frame. Um, if you're the kind of person that you much rather wait, but then get one or two good ones, well, then the higher time frame is the way to go. Okay. Now, any questions, anything not clear, anything you want me to do with this chart? Now, again, the settings here are for the 5 minutes, and in this indicator, settings matter because it defines this zone and the VWAP and what constitutes being far away from the VWAP. So all this matters. But in any case, if you have any suggestions, anything you want to ask, I will try and make it happen. So you see now, price starts to try to push beyond this range. And I imagine, I don't know if we're going to have enough time here to see it, but if it goes far enough, then maybe we're going to get another long because price would be outside of the forbidden zone, outside of this range where we're not supposed to trade in, to go back toward the VWAP, assuming there is enough time in a session. Okay. All right. Well, that's all I got. So now again, let me see. Let me scroll here. Okay. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions. Let's see. 1 minute. Okay, 1 minute. Ask about again. Time settings matter for the time, so I'm not sure. I'm gonna put it on 1 minute. But let's see. Looks very similar to five, kind of. Here is the short on a 1 minute. So again, you see more signals on a 1 minute than on a five until finally, one does work out here. But again, you would need to change the settings. That's why NinZaCo had actually different settings. There was a slide there with different suggestions, and 1 minute has different settings than 5 minutes. So this one is definitely for the 5 minute. And on this 5 minute, we are just waiting for price to go below for any kind of a signal. All right. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions. I guess it's fairly clear. So thank you for attending. Let me maybe once again just quickly go to go to this. Okay. Uh, okay, Peter, my pleasure. Thank you for attending. Yeah, if you want to get in touch with me again, this is my Discord group, and this is my contact information. I can answer any questions on trading. So if you have any questions, just email me. If you want settings or anything or explanations how an indicator works, that should really be for NinZaCo support, not me. Again, I don't code this indicator. I'm just a guy who trades. That's all I know. I just know how to trade. I don't know much else. Okay. All right. Thank you all, and I will see you in the next webinar.